Alright, hey guys, welcome to this demo again. This is going to be for Adobe Illustrator Intro 1.2, and I'm going to break it into two demos for a total of 10 modules. So let's go ahead and get into it. Your screen's probably going to look a little different in the Google Classroom, but if you go to the upper right hand corner of this assignment, you're going to see Computer Art Example or Exercise 1-2, and you'll just click on that. So select it. It's going to bring it open in a separate window, so then we'll hit More Actions, the three dots there, and then hit Open in New Window, so make sure you select that. And then on this window, you're either going to see the Download button right here, or if it's not visible there, look under your More Actions, the three dots, and then you'll probably see Download in there. Mine's right here, so I'm going to click on it, so just click once. It starts loading. This is actually downloading the file, and then you'll see this little menu pop up. Now if you act quickly, you can click on it, and then that will actually load this file right up into Illustrator. So I'm going to go full screen so you guys can see that. Okay, and so if all of the background stuff is not locked, you might want to select by doing a selection rectangle across the text here. And if it turns blue, then you can go Object, Lock, and then there'll be Selection right there. That way it'll keep it from moving. Right now you can see though, if I click and drag, this selection is not moving, and so it's locked. So again, make sure lock all of the text and the lines in the background before you continue, just because it'll prevent things from getting weird. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into our first module. So I'm going to take my zoom tool, the magnifying glass. I'll click a few times. You could also do Control+ to zoom in, and then spacebar hand grab or the hand tool to move to the module that you're working on. So in this case, use hotkey T to select the type tool, and then you're going to fill three different text entries into here. So I'm going to hit T. You'll notice in the toolbar, the type tool pops up. It's selected. If I click once, it fills in with lorem ipsum, and then I can put my name, Mr. F. To deselect this text box, I can then select the type tool or the selection tool, and then you can see by clicking on the black of the letter, I can actually move that little text box around. So let's do that again. I'll get my type tool. I'm going to click once. I'll put in the date. So 08/21/24. I'll then take my selection tool, click on the black of the letter, and position it. Get my type tool, and then period 0, because this is not a period right now. All right. So that's the basics there. You can see too, like as you start to move things around, you can see how they line up with each other. Again, if you don't see all these tools, you're not able to do that easily. Make sure that you go to Window, down to Workspace, and set it on Essentials Classic, or reset Essentials Classic, just so you have all of these tools that you're seeing on my screen right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. So I'm going to take the hand tool, which is right here in the toolbar, and I'll click and drag over to the next selection, the next module. So now we're going to use the selection tool V, which is this black arrow up here, to arrange the circles into a clover shape. Change the fill color to green, which is right here. This is your fill, the black square, to green. And then after arranging the circles, use the direct selection tool, which is this white arrow right here, to reposition some anchor points on each leaf. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this. So first I'm going to get my selection tool, so I can hit hotkey V on the keyboard, or I can click on this tool, and then I'm going to make a clover-like shape. So 3 leaves, there's a little stem, that's kind of cute. Sure, it's a clover. So just clicking and moving with the selection tool, if you select the center of the shape, anything where there's color, it'll move easily. All right, now we're going to change the fill color. So right now the fill color is pink. You can see it right there. To change all of them at the same time, I can create what's called a selection rectangle. So I'm going to click outside up and to the left of the clover, and I'll then drag down to the bottom right side. You can see all the objects are now selected. And then if I go to the fill square, I can double click on it, which opens up what's called the color picker. And then in the color picker, you can change the actual color, the hue. So I'm going to go to the greens right here. And then within this field right here, you can go to like a light green, a gray green, a dark green, or a bright green. So I'm just going to select any kind of green that I like. You'll also see a preview of the color that used to be, and then the color it's now changing into. And then once you like it, you can hit OK. So that's locked that color in there. Almost done with this module. Again, if I hold the space bar, that pulls the hand tool out, and then I can click and drag to pan up, and I can read the last of my directions. Use the direct selection tool to reposition some anchor points on each leaf. And so in this case, we're now going to use the white arrow. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to then click on one of the circles. When I do that, you're going to notice these little blue squares that show up. These are called anchor points. And then if I hover right over the anchor point, so in this case, and then click on it, it's then going to activate just that anchor point. The neat thing now is like I can actually click and drag that anchor point to any location I want, and the shape is going to change accordingly. So let's do that again. I'll click on this circle. I'm going to click on this anchor point once, and then I'll click and drag it down. So I'm just messing with the anchor points. Maybe I'll click on this anchor point, and I'll click and drag it up. So it's a little bit more of like a wonky shape, like the circles are a little bit more strange looking. If you want to move them around, you can also select the center of the object with your direct selection tool and make it look the way you want. So now we got a little shamrock here. Cool, let's move on. So module number 2, again, control plus or minus will zoom you in or out. You can also use your zoom tool here. If you hold Alt while it's in the positive direction, it'll go negative. And so that modifies the tool there. So 3 more modules and then we're done with this demo. So, okay, number 3, use the star tool to draw a yellow star with 7 tips in the topmost cell below. So that's going to be this area right here. The star is going to be buried underneath your shapes. So in this case, like right below the type tool, you can see the ellipse tool. If I click and hold on the ellipse tool, you'll notice this drop-down menu happens, and then you can see the star tool is right there. So I'll click on that, and then it's as simple as clicking and dragging out the shape. Now for most of you guys, it's going to show just like a standard like pentagon, so it's 5 stars, right? And so to make it a 7-tip star, you actually have to add 2 more tips. And so what's kind of cool about this is on your keyboard where the up, down, left, right arrows are, if you hit the up arrow, it'll then add an additional point to the star. So there's a 6-pointed star, there's a 7-pointed star. If I just hold down the up arrow, it'll just keep adding points to the star. It starts to look like a sun. If I hold the down arrow, it'll go all the way down to like a 3-tip star. So there's 3. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, just hitting the up arrow. I'll then let go of the mouse, and I've got this star created. If I take my selection tool, I can then click and drag the center, most point of the stars. Kind of click on a part of the star that's just like a solid part of the color. Try to avoid these white circles or the bounding box. So you want to pick right in the colored part of the star. All right, then it says a yellow star. So now we're going to change the color. You can see the fill color is green from the shamrock. So I'll double click on that. I'll change my hue to yellow, and I'm going to lift the value so it's kind of bright so I can see it. And then I'll hit OK. All right, use Control C to copy the star. Use Control V to paste the star. Place the second star in the second cell. So that's going to be below here. Change its fill color to pink, and then scale and rotate the second star to fit the second cell. Alright, so space bar to get the hand, I can pan down. I'm then going with my selection tool, I'll click on the star, Control C, Control V. We can see another star shows up here. And then it was talking about scaling and rotating. So if I want to rotate with my selection tool selected and I've clicked on the star, you'll notice this bounding box that shows up, this blue box that shows up around the star. Now, if it disappears, just click on the star again until it shows up, and if it still is not showing up, just ask me for help and I can help you out. To rotate, though, you're going to put your mouse right off one of the corners, and you'll see it turn into this like little curved arrow. So it's an arrow pointing in like two 90-degree directions, a 90-degree kind of orientation. It has like a little smiley face or curve to it. And so when your cursor turns into that, you can then click and drag, which will rotate the actual star. To scale, you'll notice if you go right over that little square, it turns into a diagonal or arrow orientation pointing in two different directions. And then you'll notice if I click and drag, I can actually make the star bigger. Something that's kind of cool too is if you hold Alt and Shift, it'll actually scale from the center. And so sometimes you can constrain the proportions by holding Shift, and if you hold Alt as well, it'll scale from the center. Whenever you scale, again, I'm going to click and drag out. I'm going to hold Shift and Alt and start dragging until it fills the right space. I want to make sure that I let go of the mouse first and then let go of the keyboard. That's always the process. Sometimes students will let go of the keyboard before they let go of the mouse, and the star will actually distort. It'll look strange. So again, mouse off before you key off. That's what I'm going to keep repeating. And then let's see, fill color to pink. So I click on the star, double click on the fill, change my hue to pink. I can lift the value, and then when I like the color, hit OK. So there we go, done. Zoom out, pan to the right, again spacebar, hand to move. Module 4, use the polygon tool to draw a triangle. Use the triangle, copy the triangle using Control C, then paste it in place using Control F. Then scale the triangle down, make both triangles with no fill and a black stroke. So again, we're going to use a polygon tool. We're going to copy, paste in place, and then we're going to change fill to stroke. So a few different things are happening here. The polygon tool is going to be in the shape. So again, under your type tool, right now notice that it's set to star. So if I click and hold, you'll then see polygon tool. The preview looks like a hexagon. And then in this case, if I click and drag out, typically it's going to be set to like a polygon, maybe a pentagon or something like a hexagon, probably something like this. Now, just like the star tool, if you do the up arrow, you add sides to your polygon, and if you do the down arrow, you subtract sides to the polygon. And so a triangle is the shape that has the least amount of sides. You can't have a shape with two sides. That would not be a shape. So a triangle is kind of like the simplest shape. And you would just hit the down arrow to get that. If you hold Shift as well, it'll flatten the base out of the triangle. And then once you have a nice triangle, let go of your mouse, let go of your keyboard if you're holding Shift, and then we can reposition with our selection tool. So selection tool, click on the color of the triangle and put it in the middle. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my stroke to fill. And you can see Shift X pops up as the keyboard shortcut, or you can click on this little arrow icon in the toolbar. So now I've got a stroked pink triangle. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my selection tool, I'm going to click right on the line of the triangle. I'm going to go Control C, which is to copy, and then Control F, which is to paste in place, which essentially means like I copy it and paste it right on top of the existing triangle. So there's two triangles right there right now. We can't see it, looks like it hasn't changed, but you'll just have to believe me that there's two of them. Where this gets kind of fun is we're now going to go to the edge of the bounding box. I'm going to choose the lower right hand corner. I'm going to hover right over that white kind of box on the edge of the bounding box. And then I'm going to click and hold the mouse down, and then I'll hold Shift and Alt and drag it towards the center. I'll then let go of the mouse, let go of my keyboard, and you can see when I click off, I've got a triangle that's centered right in the inside of the other triangle. Let's do that one more time, just so you can practice that. So I've got two triangles. I'll delete one. Let's go Control C, which is to copy, Control F, which is to paste in place. I'll go to the edge of the bounding box, click. I'm going to hold Shift and Alt and drag towards the center. Let go of the mouse, let go of the keyboard, and then click once now, and you can see I've got a triangle inside of a triangle. Last thing we're going to do is turn it black, so I'll do selection rectangle over both of them by just clicking and dragging outside the shape across both of these pieces. I can double click on my stroke color, and then inside this pink hue space, I'm going to drag it all the way down to the bottom left, and that'll get black. I'll hit OK, and then we're good to go. Click off, module complete. The last one here is going to deal with duplication, and duplication is a really important thing to know how to do, especially if you don't want to like draw something over and over again. You can use keyboard shortcuts to repeat it. So directions: draw a circle, use Alt, click, drag to make a copy of the original circle, then use Control D to duplicate the circle and distance. Select the row of circles, use Alt, click, drag to copy another row, so down, and then use Control D to duplicate. And so the final effect is we're going to look like we have like an array of circles kind of filling up this whole module. So let's get our circle first. So Shapes tool right below the Type tool, click and hold. Here's the Ellipse tool. I'll then click and drag out a circle. Notice if you have those two magentas are showing up across the circle, it means it's a perfect circle. You can also hold Shift, which will make a perfect circle, and then I'll mouse off, take my key off. I want to translate this from fill to stroke to fill, so I'll hit the little swap. So now it's a black circle. And then what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate. So with the circle selected with my selection tool, I will hold Alt, and notice when I go in the black of the circle, there's two arrows. So I'm holding Alt on my keyboard, then I'll click and drag and position that circle just to the right of the other circle. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mouse off, then I'm going to take my hand off the keyboard, and I'm not going to click anything. So this is like the first most critical move. So Alt, click, drag, mouse off, key off, and then I'm going to follow it with this keyboard shortcut, Control D. And if I keep hitting Control D, it will keep duplicating that same shape at that same distance. Let's do that one more time. I've got a circle, I select it, I hold Alt, I click, and I drag to the right. I'm going to mouse off, then I'll key off, and then before I click anything, I will do Control D. And I just keep holding Control down and punching the letter D, and it duplicates, 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 duplicates. So that's our first step with duplication. The next one where this you can repeat lots of circles is we do a selection rectangle over all these circles. So click and drag over all the circles with a selection rectangle. So I've got all the circles in that row selected. I'm now going to hold Alt, click, drag down. I can hold Shift even to lock it into that perfect orientation. Then I'm going to mouse off, key off, and then before I click anything, I will use the keyboard shortcut to duplicate, Control D. And I just keep punching D, like I'm holding Control and hitting D, and it keeps repeating those same shapes at the same distance. If you make too much, you can always hit delete. It'll remove the last duplicated set of objects. And that's where we're going to stop today. Control 0 will fill the screen with your artboard so you can see the things you've done. We used our type tool, our selection tool, direct selection tool. We copied and pasted. We learned how to add more points to a star, and we learned how to take sides away from a polygon, and then lastly to duplicate objects with an Alt-click drag and Control D.